Ladies and gentlemen, come gather round, come gather round, come gather around. Today, we're going to take a look at the old vintage steering wheel that's kind of hooped. And instead, we're going to modernize that wheel with a smaller diameter, thicker rimmed, less hooped steering wheel. Here's how you do it. Let's go! First, you're going to need something to bend a piece of tubing around. I am using the center of a 15-inch Chevy Cavalier Pontiac Sunfire wheel. I used to have a Sunfire / Cavalier. For whatever reason, I still have the wheels. I don't have the car. One of the reasons you should never throw anything away. These sections are the offcuts from widening a set of wheels that I had for my daily driver Hyundai. I'll probably put a link up above. If you want to see how to widen wheels, these are the offcuts. And I just needed a little bit thicker so I could put a piece of tubing around it. In this case, I welded a bar of 1-inch 16-gauge round tubing, and I just bent it around the center of a wheel. Theoretically, you don't need a fancy tube bending die for large diameters like this. Alternatively, you could fill the whole thing full of sand, cap it, and heat it and bend it. But honestly, I've done more than a few wheels this way. Not wheels, yeah, wheels, steering wheels. Hand wheels on bead rollers and whatnot. This works pretty slick. So I bent it around the rim, sliced through both, squeeze them together in a vise, tack it together, beat it into submission with a hammer. And when you think you've got it as perfect as you can, weld it solid. And then wish you had made it more perfect. But for everything else, there's filler. So I got it about the right size. And the center of those Cavalier wheels are the right size to end up with a 14.5-inch diameter wheel. Cut out the center of the original. And when you're feeling pretty saucy about where it's going to go, you got to trim off a whack of the plastic. You're going to have to reshape some of this, but we'll get to that. I used some vice grips to break off the chunky bits that are still kind of glued to the iron bar inside. And you want to cut off enough of the plastic to get the welder in there, but not so much that you have to put a lot of it back. So shaping it and trying to make it fit exactly where you want it. I did have a stack of steel. You can see the crazy angle there to make it fit right. I do have a stack of steel which appeared to be the right size for making this work. And make sure you've got it centered and straight and as perfect as you possibly can. Check, 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 and recheck. Tack it, and then really weld it pretty solid. And if you're not good with the MIG, you might blow a hole in the tube, and then you got a piece of metal floating around inside the wheel like maracas or something, and that's less exciting, really, if you think about it. Anyways, once it's all welded pretty solid, then I smoothed it. I didn't really grind much of the weld off. I wanted a good amount of weld in there to make sure it's solid. This wheel, unlike the very first video of my 61 Chevy, actually had a whack of cracks in there. A whack of cracks. So I ground out all of the age cracks because it's steel inside and plastic on the outside, and those two don't heat and expand and contract at the same rate, so eventually you get cracks. Plus, if you weigh like 6,000 pounds, you might put a bit of stress on there. I sandblasted the whole thing, really, just a light dusting in most places. And anywhere there was a little bit of weirdness, got it nice and clean. And what I used is JB Weld plastic weld. There's other sources for this. I think I used to use DevCon back in the day, but this was what was available. It's designed for reshaping plastic. I figured it would have a similar expand and contraction characteristic as the original plastic of the wheel. It might be like Bakelite or who knows. Then, nice little mist with some 2K epoxy, and then you can sand it, shape it, add some more putty, add some more filler, which I think I did in a few places. But a couple coats of that, and then a nice good sand all over the whole thing. I just have a spray can lid in the center of the wheel because you need bare metal in the center of the wheel for the horn to work, and I didn't want to sand it off, so I just pressed a cap in there. Bust a cap in that wheel. Woo! Anyways, sand it till you can't stand it anymore. And when you blow your nose at night and you get the little black boogers of paint nuggets coming out, that's normal. Don't be stressed. You can thank me later. I think I sanded up to 280, I think, and then I gave it another spray of epoxy primer because I love me that epoxy primer. So I have more painting to do, and I ran out of the white paint that I want to use. So problem is, this can get a little bit pricey. I don't remember exactly how much I paid for a quart of this particular shade of white, but it's probably like $100, $120 Canadian, whatever. A bit annoying. So while I can buy another container of this for the not much more that I have to paint with it, the other downside with this particular container is I need a hardener and an activator. The activator lasts 14 days from when you crack it open. So if I'm spraying something really small, this $40 half quart, I guess pint of activator gets pretty pricey. This is enough to do like 6 liters of paint. That's a lot of spraying, and I'm not running a business. I can't spray that much paint to use this up, so that seems wasteful to me to spend 40 bucks for this. So there's another way that's equally as wasteful, or at least equally expensive, but maybe a little less wasteful, I don't know, and that is buying the 2K spray can. It's got the activator thing in the bottom. This comes with a little button. You take the button off, you stick it on the bottom, you puncture it, that activates it, shake the mother loving snot out of it, and this is active and curing inside the spray can. And then it's a spray bomb, but it is an actual 2K spray bomb. These, I think, are about 40 bucks. They're 35 bucks. They are pricey as well, but probably ultimately less pricey than buying a whole quart and a thing of that hardener for the wee amount that you're gonna do. So I'm gonna spray this because it's 2K and it is a proper curing everything. You've probably seen me wear some of these, which is just goggles, because I get tired of trying to wash the paint off of my glasses. So this is a little easier. You probably don't need this if you just, do the safety squint. And one of these, wearing something for your lungs, because this stuff is also not good for you. Breathable air is cool. I'm gonna spray this outside. Let's go. So while I was at it, and I needed some other things painted white, I also had sandblasted and epoxy primed a whack of carriage bolts for the front and rear bumpers, as well as a pair of convex mirrors, 5-inch mirrors. I wanted them white. They came stainless. Oh, and also you can see on the corner there, there's a model, a 1/25th scale model of a 60 Chevy, which I'm trying to paint the same as my 61 Chevy, so I can have a model of my model. And then they've got, or a model of my truck, a model in my truck of my truck. And then I've got a Hot Wheels that I could paint the same too, although it's a 62. So then I could have a model in my truck, which is just nerding out on a pretty colossal level. So it's probably just me, but this totally did not spray like a gun. It's way runnier, right? Way thinner. And you kind of got to build up a whole bunch of mist coats. I couldn't give it the kind of wet coat I'm expecting. It's probably just me. It's going to look okay, and it's white, because if it ain't right, paint it white. All right, carry on. And we saw how to take a vintage steering wheel, chop off the outer side, make a new hoop, bend it into the size we want, weld it all together, stick it back in there, cut all the cracks, blend it all up with some goop, primer it, paint it. I don't know if I showed you how to stick it on, but basically it's one nut. And now you can cruise in some pretty nice modern style. Oh yeah. Thanks for coming out. Take care.